The Chicago Bears are starting to change the conversation around them in a big way. And after 7 semanas of football, it's clear that this team isn't the same one fans got used to seeing stumble through mediocrity. Riding a 4-game win streak, the Bears have climbed from the bottom half of the power rankings to a surprising number 13. Now, sure, people will say the teams they've beaten lately weren't contenders, but winning 4 straight in the NFL is no accident, no matter who's on the other side of the field. That kind of momentum doesn't come from luck. It comes from grit, growth, and leadership, and the Bears are showing all 3. And let's talk about what might be the biggest surprise in all of this. Statistically, the Chicago Bears are leading the NFL in big plays per game. Yeah, you heard that right. Through 7 weeks. And remember, they've played 1 less game than some teams. They've racked up 48 big plays. That averages out to 8 big plays per game, more than any other team in the league. The next closest? The Los Angeles Rams with just over 7. So while some fans might still be stuck in the past, try to convince you that this team is all flash and no substance. The numbers say otherwise. But let's be real. This team is far from perfect. The offense has been inconsistent, sometimes stumbling through drives that stall before they really get going. The run game, which was a major concern earlier in the season, has only recently started to find its rhythm. And even with the big plays, the Bears are still missing on the so-called gimme moments, the routine completions, the easy third downs, the red zone chances they just can't seem to convert often enough. Still, if you're choosing to look at things from a glass-half-full perspective, you might say this. You can teach a team how to execute better on the simple stuff. You can work on discipline, timing, decision-making. But if your squad is already capable of breaking off big-time runs and explosive passing plays on a weekly basis, that means the ceiling is high, real high. That's not something every team can say. And speaking of big plays, the Bears' ground game has quietly become one of the most explosive in the NFL. They lead the league in rushing plays over 10 yards with 27. On the passing side, they've notched 21 completions of over 20 yards. Put that together, and again, we're talking about a total of 48 chunk plays, despite playing fewer games. If they clean up the mistakes and become more efficient in the red zone, imagine what this offense might look like. A lot of credit here goes to new offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. What he's brought to this team is showing up on the field and in the locker room. You can see the improvement, not just in numbers, but in how the Bears carry themselves. There's a growing belief that wasn't there before. Players are starting to buy in, and more importantly, they're starting to believe in each other. You've got guys like Darnell Wright, who struggled out of the gate, now settling in and playing with confidence. Tariq Stevenson has put together 3 solid games, and might have had 4 straight if it weren't for an injury last week. That's the kind of upward trend you want to see, especially in young players. And the offensive line? Quietly putting in work. The Bears are currently the number 1 team in the NFL when it comes to fewest sacks allowed. Think about that. This is a franchise that, over the past few years, has watched multiple quarterbacks take beating after beating because of poor protection. Now, under Johnson's scheme, they've turned a major weakness into a strength. Caleb Williams isn't even in the top 20 of most sacked quarterbacks. That's a huge deal, especially for a young quarterback still finding his rhythm at the pro level. But the story isn't just about what's happening on offense. Even with some glaring issues, like ranking 28th in rush defense and 25th in points allowed, the Bears' defense has been opportunistic. They're first in the NFL in takeaways, and you can see flashes of what this group could become if they can stay healthy and consistent. Adding back injured players like TJ Edwards and Kyler Gordon has already made a noticeable difference. And now the team is looking to get even deeper with the expected return of Austin Booker. The rookie defensive end had a breakout preseason and could add another spark to a defense that's been bending, but not completely breaking. You can feel the shift happening. The energy's different. Jaquan Brisker even said it himself. The locker room feels new. Practices are sharper. Communication is better. Players are holding each other accountable. And there's a real connection between the coaching staff and the roster. That stuff matters. It might not show up in a box score, but when you've got a team that's fighting for each other, grinding out tough wins, and starting to believe in the system, those are signs of a culture change. And culture is everything in football. The Bears aren't just hoping to win. They're learning how to win. There's a difference. Anybody can luck into a few victories, but building something sustainable? That takes time, patience, and real leadership. Ben Johnson and his staff are laying that foundation right now. And it's not just coach speak. It's reflected in how this team performs, how they prepare, how they respond to adversity. Now, with all that said, consistency is still the name of the game. It's one thing to flash potential, but if the Bears want to be more than just a team to watch, they need to keep stacking good performances. That starts with finding more balance. The last 2 games showed what the run game can look like when it's humming, but the next step is connecting that with a passing attack that started hot early in the season but has since cooled off. If they can put it all together, if the offense can hit its stride while the defense keeps tightening up, this team could be dangerous down the stretch. Because here's the thing. We've seen Bears teams in the past that looked like they were turning the corner, only to crash and burn before the season ended. But this one feels a little different. The wins are uglier, sure. They're not blowing teams out, but they're fighting, they're grinding, and they're learning how to finish games, a skill that often separates contenders from pretenders in the NFL. So while it's easy to stay stuck in the past or get caught up in what's not working yet, the truth is that the Bears are trending in the right direction. They're making fewer mistakes. They're playing smarter football. They're forcing turnovers and protecting their quarterback. They're starting to believe they can win, and most importantly, they're starting to prove it. One of the clearest signs that the Chicago Bears are evolving isn't just in the stat sheets or the standings, but in how the players themselves are talking about the journey. Jaquan Brisker didn't hold back when describing the shift in the locker room, and you could hear the belief in every word. He talked about how different the energy feels, how players are taking initiative, meeting without coaches, pushing each other, staying locked in. That kind of vibe doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's built day by day, and it's driven by leadership that demands accountability. That's what Ben Johnson has brought to this team. And when you compare this environment to what the Bears were under previously, the contrast couldn't be sharper. You got a team now that's aligned across the board. Players, coaches, staff, all moving in the same direction. That doesn't guarantee success, but it gives you a real shot at building something that lasts. Brisker also made it a point to highlight how the Bears are closer than ever, not just as teammates, but as people. Offense, defense, special teams, they're finally on the same page. The coaching staff has fostered that kind of unity, and now that chemistry is showing up on Sundays. Whether it's the offensive line keeping the pocket clean or the defense rallying around big turnovers, these players are playing for each other. That's how you start to shift the identity of a franchise. And after years of false starts and short-lived optimism, this team is actually beginning to feel like it has a real foundation. Still, there's no time to get comfortable. The schedule doesn't slow down, and the next big test comes against a Baltimore Ravens team that can't be overlooked. No matter their record, no matter what people say about Lamar Jackson and the weapons around him, the Bears can't afford to treat this like any other matchup. Every game needs to be approached like it's the Super Bowl, because this team isn't in a position to coast. They've got to scrap for every yard, every possession, and every win. That's the mindset that's carried them through this win streak, and it's the one they'll need to maintain if they're going to keep climbing. Looking at the full scope of the season so far, the Bears' offense is sitting in a much better place than many expected. They're currently 10th in points per game, 14th in passing offense, and 8th in rushing yards. Those are top-half numbers across the board, and they reflect a group that's finding rhythm even with injuries and growing pains. On the ground, they're averaging over 129 yards per game. Total offense? 346 yards per contest, putting them at 12th in the league. Not elite, but undeniably solid. That shows that when things are clicking, this unit can move the ball and score. And considering where they were just a season ago, that progress deserves recognition. The Bears are also converting 40% of their third downs, ranking 14th in the league. That's a sign that they're not just relying on splash plays, but are also figuring out how to stay on the field. The red zone, however, remains a major concern. They're converting only half of their trips into touchdowns, which lands them in the bottom third of the league. That needs to change. If they can bump that efficiency up closer to 70%, this offense could go from good to dangerous in a hurry. That's the challenge ahead, turning promising drives into points and big plays into sustained momentum. But let's not ignore one of the most encouraging stats in this entire season. The Bears lead the NFL in fewest sacks allowed. That's a dramatic shift for a franchise that's struggled for years to protect the quarterback. Caleb Williams, while still learning and growing in his rookie season, has benefited hugely from that improved protection. He's currently ranked 21st in sacks taken, a number that puts him behind a long list of quarterbacks who are veterans in this league. The fact that the offensive line is keeping him upright is allowing him to develop with more confidence, and it's giving this team a real chance to see what they have in him. And it's not just about the protection. It's about discipline, too. The Bears are 6th in the league in offensive turnovers with just 5 giveaways on the year. That's a massive improvement from past seasons, and it shows that this team is valuing the football. Ben Johnson said it himself. Good teams don't make self-inflicted mistakes. And while the Bears are still cleaning up penalties and missed opportunities, the foundation is there. When you pair explosive plays with ball security and improved blocking, you've got the blueprint for an offense that can hang with just about anyone. Defensively, things are a bit more complicated. The Bears are still 25th in points allowed, and their rush defense sits at a worrying 28th. They're allowing 350 yards per game on average, ranking them 25th in total defense. But here's the twist. They're allowing just 30% conversion on third downs. That's among the best in the league. They're making timely stops when it matters, and that's the kind of grit that can keep a team in games. In the red zone, though, opponents are scoring at a 68% clip, and that's a problem that still needs to be addressed. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The Chicago Bears are stirring the rumor mill in the NFL world, and all eyes are on Hallis Hall. Sources whisper that Jalen Carter, the explosive defensive lineman who has dominated highlight reels for years, has arrived in Chicago, and the implications could be seismic. While the team has not made any official statements yet, insiders suggest that Carter's presence could completely redefine the Bears' defensive line, injecting a level of athleticism and disruption that opponents will have to account for on every snap. Carter, known for his blend of raw power, agility, and relentless motor, has long been a force capable of changing the trajectory of a game in mere seconds. Rumors suggest that his move to Chicago comes after months of speculation, with scouts and analysts buzzing about how the Bears plan to utilize him in both pass rush and run-stopping situations. The chatter around league circles is that the Bears DL could now become one of the most feared units in football, combining Carter's singular talent with a roster that has shown flashes of dominance, but never consistently terrorized opposing quarterbacks. Fans and pundits alike are already imagining the nightmare scenarios for opposing offensive lines. Picture Carter lining up across from left tackles who have spent their careers thinking they can handle elite talent. Suddenly, they may be facing a whirlwind of strength and speed that changes every blocking scheme they've practiced all offseason. Conversations around Chicago barbershops, sports podcasts, and locker rooms are abuzz. Is this the missing piece the Bears needed to finally make a statement in a fiercely competitive division? Of course, as with any blockbuster rumor, the details remain hazy. Sources suggest training camp will be the first true glimpse of how Carter will gel with the existing squad, and whether his presence is enough to elevate the defensive line from strong to truly terrifying. One thing is for certain. The Chicago Bears' defensive identity might be on the cusp of a dramatic evolution, and Jalen Carter is at the center of this tantalizing speculation. NFL insiders are watching closely. Fans are buzzing with excitement, and the league is bracing for the potential ripple effect. Could this be the start of a new era in Chicago? If the whispers are true, the answer might come sooner than anyone expects. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.